Hey everyone, it's me, and just wanted to say hello. Thank you to all my day ones to day nows. If you've realized, the channel is growing and I'm almost at the brink of getting towards 1,000 followers. So soon enough I will be able to do lives, and I'm looking forward to that because then I can do breakout rooms and all that with you guys come some future times. So we could do some like higher self workshops or whatnot. So I just wanted to say a quick thank you. And if you haven't seen me before, my name is Ashley. I'm a higher self channeler. I specialize in contacting the higher consciousnesses or the Akashic of those. And if you do need a reading, I have all the links down below. However, back to the topic. The topic is, how does the higher self bring us to our highest timeline? Now, I'm going to give you guys an idea of what I mean by this. I'm always about these these parallels or these analogies. Like, let's just put it this way. So let's say we're all kids. We're born with certain aptitudes, certain skills, and there's skills within all of us that we are meant to grow, develop, share. And I'm not talking about for work purposes or necessarily work purposes. They're just these innate things that were given by the Creator, and we either develop them as we grow in our lives or we don't. So what I'll give you an example of, and let's say all of us have the exact same skill, okay? Let's say we were all born with the capability of running, okay? And let's say we were really good at running the 800-meter race when we were a kid. Now, how the higher self steps into this and how timelines step into this is, if you can imagine, there's a grading system that, let's say if you were the writer of your own path, your own life, you also have to factor in choice when you're writing your own script, put it this way. So there's going to be a variance in all the different decisions you make that could give you a grading system. Like, think about, you know, from A plus to F minus, right? That's a grading system. So you'll notice there's A, B, C, D, E, F. So there's 6 levels, and each one of those levels has a plus or a minus. So let's say all in all, you got 12 degrees of timelines that you could hit into. This is just an example, but please follow along. So off the hop, you're a kid, you're a really good runner. Now, there's different levels, like I said, and different gradiences. So what I'll give you an example with is this. Let's say, for example, you're a runner. Now, you decide as you grow older to always run, take care of yourself, or to take the proper vitamins, train every day, continue on in competitions, etc. Right? There's that version of self that you could always be. Nothing is stopping you per se, right? However, freedom of choice comes into play. Now, let's say you're in elementary school, you start to get sidetracked because of friends. You start to get sidetracked because of peer pressure. Let's say, for example, you decide to stop going to training or training as much. Let's say, for example, as peer pressure continues as an older kid or going into high school, you start smoking. Let's say you stop competing because you don't think that it's popular or it's something that you should continue on doing. These are all negative choices that we make up against our potential, and that potential, without its disturbance, would always get us. Let's say that first person was the A plus version or the highest timeline version that may make it to, let's say, the Olympics. I'm not saying all of us are Olympians. What I'm trying to say is that if you create and you pick the right choices or the right direction in life, you might get that A plus version of self versus what I described with the smoking and letting go of the training and letting go of the competitions. That might be the D minus version of self, right? Based on all the capabilities you have. All of us have these variances in our life. Now, why is it important to connect with the higher self? So let's say, for example, for most of your life, you're unaware of a higher self. Maybe, let's say, since a child, you are aware of your higher self. It just depends when you come on to that understanding, or you could live your whole life never having it. Okay, so what happens is that if you are somebody that does take notice to your higher consciousness, stepping in all the time, how would one notice this? Well, usually the higher self is the one who, or the higher consciousness is the one who's always kind of interjecting, a little bit of eliminated from emotion, doesn't really have as much emotion or lower based emotions that we fall into as humans, and is most interested in your highest potential. Okay, does not really care about the lower ended emotions associated with a lot of pain and suffering that we fall short into this world, but is more interested in, like, how do I get you to keep training, to keep going to the competitions, to keep eating right, to getting you in front of all the competition impossible, to get you to the highest grade caliber competitions and potentially the Olympics. The higher self is kind of like a coach that way, that's always trying to get you to that highest peak of our existence, and it's our choices that change that direction. Ergo, change the grade of our timeline. So why somebody would want to listen to their higher consciousness is because the higher consciousness and the higher self is always trying to get you up in gradients in your grade level of your own timeline and destiny. So let's say, for example, if you do commune with your higher self for the first time or ongoingly, you'll notice that the higher self, like I said, does not deal with emotions. Not that they're devoid of emotions, they're just looking for your betterment. So let's say, for example, quick example, you're in a bad relationship, girl or guy, doesn't matter. It's something that slows you down. It's something that's harboring too many emotions. You're not functioning at your peak. You're not excelling. You're actually being hindered, or you're dragging more weight than you should be dragging. The higher self will step in, interject, and say things along the lines of like, oh, if you got rid of this person, you know, like you would be free of this burden. Or if you got rid of this person, you would be single and able to achieve this. They're always trying to show you what is the potential should you release certain burdens in your life. And that's ideally what the higher self is always trying to promote, is your ultimate timeline, your ultimate success, your ultimate capabilities. Not for greed, not for selfishness, just for your own prosperity, you know, just for your own self-worth. So what happens is that a lot of us will have this banter all the time and not recognize it, or kind of denounce it and not follow it. It's not like it doesn't exist, it's always there. But what will happen is that the person is maybe scared to follow the guidance that the higher self is trying to provide. Usually because to do what is best sometimes can be scary. So you have to take that into context. You have to realize that the higher self is not going to lead you astray. The higher self is you. And if you can't trust you, who else can you trust in this world? Like legit, you're always with yourself. You're the one that you should be able to trust the most. But ironically, sometimes we trust the least. But that has to do with self-worth as well. The more you build up the confidence in your decision-making skills, the more you build up your confidence in understanding that what you have is best for you as an outcome, ergo your family, ergo your children, and everyone surrounding you, you will start to listen and take shape and follow what the higher self is recommending for you, because you know that if you follow those breadcrumbs or those patterns, you will start to rise higher in your timeline success, or the higher gradients of success of timeline. And also what I will say is that sometimes what also helps is that you'll notice that you get other sequences aside from the higher self's communication. But let's say the physical 3D world starts to show you sequences as well. You'll notice that you either see a lot of angel numbers. A lot of people talk about this, but how often do you get them? Do you get them all the time, or do you only see them when you come up with an aha moment in your mind of something to go after? You got to pay attention to that. Do you see a certain number? It doesn't have to be an angel number. Like for example, with myself, I have 316. That has been mine since I was a kid, like 14, 15, and it follows me as well, and it kind of tells me that I'm on the right track. Okay, so some of you could have that, or you could have a ongoing relationship with things like feathers, or you could have an ongoing relationship with certain animals, but it's something that always shows up at these pinnacle times. They're a little awkward, they don't really fit into the norm, so you know that they're unique to you. And those are the types of sequences or markers that you should be paying attention to when you're also following your higher conscious, higher level, most highest timeline attainability, because those sequences are also going to be those breadcrumbs and those markers to let you know everything's going okay. Because realistically, the higher self will never lead you astray. You would never leave you astray. You would never send yourself off a cliff. And the minute that you start believing in that wholeheartedly is the minute you start acting in accordance. When you act in accordance, you move higher in the timelines, in the gradients, and you do better for you as an overall, as a lifetime, as a lifespan. And it also hits all of your lessons. So why not try it? If you're too intimidated to do it, try to pick the one that is of the least resistance. But you'll notice once you take that baby step with that one scary thing, you'll notice once you achieve it, once you conquer it, it'll be easier to do the next one and so forth. And you'll see that you'll always be okay, because you wouldn't hurt you. So I just want to say that out to you guys. Love you lots. Follow what the higher self is recommending if you can, or if you're at a level where you're willing to try, because it's always going to try to better you to your highest timeline and your fullest destiny. So I love you guys lots. If catch you next time. If you do like what I'm saying, please like, please share, please subscribe. If you did need a higher self channeling, please find the link below. Talk to you later, guys. Bye for now.